Hey everybody, my name is Mackenzie, if you haven't met me before, and I am the CCO of ArtEvolve and sometimes host of ArtEvolve. So today's ArtEvolve, we're going to be talking about TikTok. So the official title is Time for TikTok, Connecting Art Organizations with New Audiences. And we have with us today a real live TikToker, Taylor Alber, who is a content creator and social media strategist. Thanks for joining us, Taylor.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So will you tell everyone a bit more about yourself and your background?
Sure. Yeah. So hi, I'm Taylor. I'm currently a content creator and social media strategist that's based in New York City. And I'm also the founder of Museum TikTok, like you said. I've always had a passion for the arts. I graduated from George Washington University with a degree in art history and my master's from Sotheby's Institute of Art in London. So I worked in the art world for a little bit and also in PR and social media and communications. So it's nice to be able to kind of combine the two passions that I have for social media and art with Museum TikTok.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us today. So for those of you who don't know how ArtEvolve tends to work, we definitely love questions and comments and interactions with us as we go along. It's more of an informal chat than a formal presentation. So if any of you have anything you'd like to contribute as we go along, please feel free to pop into the chat and ask your questions or make your comments. And if you have any questions that you'd like Taylor to answer at the end, then go ahead and go into the Q&A section and you can add a question there that we'll make sure we address at the end if it's not directly related to anything that we're talking about. And so, of course, I'm the one to host this week because I also have a background in social media marketing. So hopefully I can sprinkle in a few bits as Taylor kind of brings us through the magic of TikTok and how it can be used for arts organizations. So let's see. Let's see. I just wanted to kind of get through a bit of kind of interesting context that came from the art newspaper last year. So it shows that in 2021, they did a visitor figure survey for all of the institutions. And it shows that institutions are largely failing to adopt TikTok. So the total number of followers on TikTok for the 100 most visited museums in the world in terms of people visiting museums is about 1.3 million. But that's compared to a total of 55 million followers on Instagram, 47 million on Twitter, and 33 million on Facebook. So that is a huge difference, right, between those different platforms. Really surprising, actually, I think, considering how well art can be kind of exhibited on TikTok. And the low stats, are pretty startling, especially because TikTok is even taken over the popularity from Facebook at this point. So I think it's something we all should kind of look into getting into to some degree, but it can really be intimidating, right, for a lot of arts organizations, especially those who don't have social media strategists on board. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about what makes TikTok different from other social media platforms that you've worked with, Taylor.
Definitely. I think TikTok, the interface is very interesting compared to Instagram. Like obviously both platforms you can scroll on, but TikTok, you have these like short formatted videos that come up in a really hyper personalized algorithm. So the algorithm like is creepy accurate. So if you really like something and you like videos of dogs, and you'll just start getting a bunch of dog videos. So I think that's definitely like a large difference between that and Instagram, which is sometimes filled with a lot of ads, or you're just seeing what your friends are posting. I also think it's more of this organic content being posted on TikTok versus Instagram, or these posed images, or Facebook is sharing your life, where this is very like creative, organic, aesthetic platform where you're able to kind of share your ideas in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of accessibility, right, I think we all know the power of video, right, to communicate, but YouTube can feel sort of daunting because of the format, right? And how long
Yes.
those
It's
videos
so
are and how
long,
edited
yeah.
they are.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how long do you say maybe your, quickest TikTok on museum TikTok, how long did it take you to film and put up?
There are some that don't take that long at all. If I'm already going to an exhibition and I'm filming it or just taking photos or videos, I mean, I've had videos that are like 8 seconds long to 10 seconds long.
Right.
So honestly, it doesn't take that long to just create something, as long as the content you're creating is good, or it's good quality, or something you think people would see. It's like not too challenging.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not that you need to spend 4 hours getting a 10-second video out there.
No,
It's
not at
not that
all.
type of commitment.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you were talking a little bit about how the algorithm is really focused. How do you think that benefits art institutions that are maybe just starting out on TikTok?
So I think that a great part of the algorithm is that it pulls from location as well. So for example, I live in New York. If someone, if I'm scrolling through TikTok and I want to see, like things going on in New York, and I follow a bunch of New York City content creators, it'll start to get that on my feed more. I think it's great for art institutions like New York or any city to be able to post, things going on and happenings, because a lot of the things that I find for the weekends are through TikTok. So I think that really helps people in cities, or just, it doesn't even matter if you're in a big city or anything. It helps people find like different events or exhibitions going on. So I think that's really beneficial for the art world for sure.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's kind of, it's like an event space,
Yeah.
calendar
Yeah.
almost in some ways. So what drew you to TikTok in the first place?
Um, I've always enjoyed social media, having worked in the art world and then also working in the social media departments at galleries. I was very interested in TikTok because during the pandemic, there was not that much to do, and everyone seemed to be on the app. So I figured, I would get on there and see what everyone was talking about, because I thought it was just like dance videos. But then I found, it was really a lot of people sharing like their creativity and kind of what they were doing during COVID. It was like a great way for people to connect, and it really interested me. So figured I'd hop on and like learn how it worked. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people who now use it probably discovered it during that period, right? Yeah.
Definitely. Or it was like dancing or like cooking videos. Like it was, honestly, I loved it just for like the dog videos and the cooking videos, but then it became more than that. It was expanded as people started to join the platform.
Yeah, definitely. And so what then inspired you to start museum TikTok?
Um, So I saw when I got onto TikTok, I noticed the algorithm was obviously picking up things that I was interested in, but there wasn't that many art accounts. There were a few that were doing a great job at like explaining art history, some kind of explaining just different exhibitions, but it was just a handful of them. So I just saw how TikTok was impacting other industries like the beauty industry, fashion, lifestyle. Felt like it could be like a great tool for the art world. Thought it was a good opportunity for like museums to be able to educate people on museums in the art world. Seeing that there was not that much out there.
Yeah, definitely. So how have you found kind of the response to museum TikTok on the platform?
Pretty good. When I started, I didn't intend for it to have a bunch of followers. I honestly had a lot of videos from when I was studying at Sotheby's in London. So we would travel to different like exhibitions, and I had the opportunity to go to different museums. So I kind of thought it would be fun just to learn to, post videos and at least educate a small audience. But it seemed to really grow, and I would get a lot of positive feedback when it was like an educational video in an interesting or contemporary way. So maybe like artists that you didn't know about, or an exhibition that's really, like picture video worthy. So I think for that, I received a lot of like positive feedback. I definitely didn't expect it to get a bunch of followers or people to be interested at first.
Yeah, definitely. So when you look at TikTok now, in terms of the art accounts that are on there, the art institutions in particular, what does that landscape look like? Is it still kind of sparse, or?
I think it's growing slowly. Like when I first joined and had around like 5,000 followers, I think I would see, I know the Rijksmuseum started off a TikTok pretty early. But now I definitely see more museums popping up every day. I mean, even like smaller museums that I didn't really know about. I think it was the Sacramento History Museum. They have 2.4 million followers.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't really know about that museum, but they've done like a great job at having like explaining the history of Sacramento and using people within the institution. So I definitely see it popping up more. But I think some of the larger museums are starting to get, I guess they're starting to gain followers, but I think that they could be doing like a better job at getting people more involved with their TikTok. I think there's definitely like contemporary ways to highlight exhibitions. So hopefully more people join and hopefully they keep posting.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think I've seen for sure there is like a growing presence, but definitely not as much as you would expect, right? With how popular TikTok is. I don't think there are nearly as many institutions on there. And let's see, I was try to pull one up. So there are definitely some, I was just gonna put one, for example, one that did very well, I would say at the beginning. They don't have as many followers as I think they could have at this point, but they were one of, again, like you mentioned, one of the first museums to join, which was the Uffizi. So I'll just put that out there if anyone's checked that out. They don't have, it didn't grow anything like the Sacramento History Museum or anything like that. But in terms of looking at sort of how easy these things are to do, I think they're a great example because they have literally, sometimes they'll just have an image of a piece that they have in their museum, and then they'll have some animations over the top, and then 5,000 people will see it. So even in those small numbers, I mean, you're able to get something out there that is actually being like engaged with.
Yeah, definitely. I think the key is just to keep posting and putting it out there. I think because everyone's on TikTok now, and like especially a younger audience, it seems, people always say it seems a lot easier to go viral on TikTok, and I think it's true. So I think if you're like consistently posting, it doesn't need to be anything crazy.
Yeah, Sarah has asked a really interesting question, which is, are you also making conservation lab TikTok videos? And if not, would you consider?
I am not, but I would definitely consider. I would love to do that. That'd be great.
I have seen some actually very interesting conservators on TikTok. It's a very small corner of the TikTok world right now. But it is growing. So I'm going to see if I can actually pull up that account for you, Sirhat, and send it over. One of the ones that I've seen is kind of growing the fastest. But I think it's a great place to do conservation videos because honestly, you're taking videos a lot of times anyway of what you're doing. And it's something that is sort of, it's a process that not a lot of people know about and they'd be interested to learn about, right? And that's a lot of what, there's a lot of parts of TikTok that are about educating, which I think surprises people.
Yeah, definitely. I think a majority of TikTok is definitely educational in a sense. I mean, people stay on the platform to learn new things, and I think that would be great.
Exactly. So why do you think TikTok is a good platform for art in the art world? We've talked about this a little bit, but we can dig into it.
Totally. I think something that's a challenge for the art world is, like turning an exhibition, like a still shot image, into something that's like exciting. I think even for galleries, it's kind of the same image you see over and over with the pictures on the wall. And then unless it's like an immersive exhibition where people can go take a video or picture, it's harder to get people to want to go into a gallery or museum. Sometimes they think it's kind of boring. So I think this like less polished, organic content, showing people going to museums, showing it in a different way, I think it's really helpful for the art world. I know that I had mentioned before the, like in terms of if you live in a city, it's showing up, like around where you live. I think it's great that the For You page is so accurate. So if you even have a slight interest in doing something fun on the weekend and you don't know what to do, it's possible that you could stumble upon, an exhibition, and, it could get people more interested in the arts.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see. I also, when you're thinking about, why it might be good for art in the art world, right? We're talking about things being like less polished and being able to just kind of put stuff up there with flexibility. So I think, you know, again, most institutions will assume that it has to be a marketing person that's doing this. But what sort of other roles in a museum do you think could easily create TikToks for a museum TikTok?
Totally. Yeah, besides the parts of like social media management, which are obviously like, you know, timing or just like figuring out the analytics. I think in terms of like creation, that's the nice part about TikTok. Really anyone can do it. So having like a curator or an art handler or even a volunteer speak and just talk about what they do to see the museum more as, you know, like a living thing opposed to just like pictures on the wall. I think it's really great and educational. I mean, like I had mentioned, the Sacramento Museum, I think it's Howard is their main volunteer there, and he's really the reason why they've grown so much. And I just think it's great. You don't need to, you know a lot about social media as long as you're a creative person or you just have something great to say. I think people will listen and watch.
Yeah, definitely. So just in terms of, let's see, I'm just gonna link this. We were talking about art conservation. If you check out, just coming back to that question, Sarah, if you check out the tag of art conservation, you'll find it has like 63 million views on that hashtag, and you'll see many different types of conservators who are talking about conservation or are doing conservation in the videos. So it's very interesting, and it's literally often just someone doing conservation on a piece while on a video and has some text over it explaining how to do it. So it's really not something that is like overwhelmingly kind of out of the realm of possibility for the everyday person that's not a marketer.
That's so cool. I'm gonna look at that after.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Honestly, I go down the rabbit hole on art conservation TikTok. It's one of my favorites.
I love that.
Because you'll also see pieces that literally, you know, are literally in pieces, right? And they'll put it back together. It's pretty amazing. I think that's one of the few where I will watch the part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Just
right.
sitting there going, yeah, I do that.
Exactly. So how do you think that TikTok has changed how audiences interact with art on social media? You were talking about this a little bit before.
I think in general, it engages with a younger audience. So I think, sometimes, like I was saying, the younger audience or just people who weren't interested in art are now having a chance to kind of interact and enjoy it. They're taking note of it more so. And I think it's like highlighting the relevance to people who didn't think art or museums were relevant. I think a large thing that TikTok also did was Instagram really promoted this whole like picture worthy exhibition. And I think showing it in video format shows that it doesn't need to be this over the top contemporary exhibition for it to be exciting. It can be, like a classical painting, or it can just be something that maybe people don't need to take a photo of. It really just shows, the exhibition itself. And I think it's a great way for it to highlight.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. I think just sort of this ease of being able to show these things and have people receive them right without it needing to be. I think with Instagram there was almost a fear of photos not being good enough,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
the aesthetic not being enough, right, of a particular exhibition. So institutions who didn't have that sort of full-time marketing presence would just not put anything up or put one picture up because that was the only one they thought was like worthy, right, of being on that type of platform. And I think also sort of with the age of Instagram, there was a lot of influencers who were very much focused on getting the most beautiful aesthetic picture. And so they wouldn't put up the photos of the exhibition that, was maybe more interesting in terms of material or story, but not as pretty,
Totally. Yeah. I think it was like Instagram sometimes lacked that like connection that TikTok has, where you see a video and maybe it's not the most like aesthetic or pretty looking thing, but you connect to it in a different way. I think photos are challenging with that. It's just a single image. So I think TikTok's great for that.
Yeah, I think the storytelling element of TikTok it's sort of melded almost, it's taken like Instagram and YouTube, right? And kind of smushed them together in a way, because now you have the ability to tell stories, but it's not long form, and it's like, it's more accessible.
Definitely. And I think also with Instagram too, I don't even think people really read captions that often anymore. I think they just read, if it's like a brand or anything, you just read the first part unless you're really interested in it. So I think, yeah, being able to have like speak and explain, I think that's great about TikTok, the storytelling you were mentioning.
Yeah, definitely. So what about we were talking about the algorithm, right? And the For You page, right? Which is where everyone sees information being really accurate.
Yeah, it's definitely a really unique thing. I think with Instagram, again, you're seeing your friends, what they post, or a brand. You do have a For You page on Instagram. It's not as accurate, I've noticed. Mine's just like dogs and I think shopping things. And there's a lot of advertisements within Instagram now, and TikTok definitely doesn't have as many advertisements or sponsored content. So I think it's great because it really is, like personalized for you.
Yeah. So beyond it being kind of like personalized for you, um, if you look at the algorithm as compared to other platforms, how is it different in terms of kind of what gets put in front of you as a user?
Totally. I think it's drawing in the right people. I think, hashtags are definitely a thing on TikTok, but also putting like when you're creating a video, if you put text within the video, it's pulling from that as well. So it's really, making it accurate. That's why the algorithm is able to be so accurate,
Sure.
but you really are going to get something that you're looking for. I also think it's going to connect you to like-minded people. And through that connection, you slowly get exposed to more accounts. And I think that's just something on Instagram that doesn't really happen. If you follow an account on there, it's not that you're being exposed to a bunch of different accounts. You're just following that account.
Right.
So I think that's like a really large difference between TikTok and Instagram.
Exactly. Like when you scroll through Instagram, right, you're seeing mostly the things that you follow, and then brands, and then ads. Whereas in TikTok, a lot of the material that's coming through, if I'm a user, is going to be just related to my interests. Yeah. And I think something I've noticed, I don't know if I'm sure you've seen this, Taylor, but I'm surprised by the size of some of the accounts that will come through. They're
On
small.
TikTok? Okay, yeah, on TikTok, yes. Oh yeah, I will follow like accounts that have like 200 followers. All of a sudden I'll get a video that's really accurate and I follow them. You don't have to be this big brand, or you don't have to be verified. You can just start creating.
Yeah, and I think that's a fear for a lot of institutions. Again, you don't have full-time marketing professionals that if they get on there, they're going to have to spend a lot of money to be able to get to a certain follower count for anybody to see them, right? But with TikTok, as long as you're creating content that sort of has a particular message that you're aiming to reach an audience with, then you are going to get onto their pages, right?
Definitely, yeah. As long as the content is something that's quality, yeah, you'll definitely reach people's pages for sure.
Yeah. And so what do you mean by quality? Can you dig into that a little bit more?
Sure. I think, in terms of videoing, I think it's important to always upload like high quality videos, or to stick with some of the trends if you're growing your account. So trending sounds, or even using TikTok's in-app features for editing, really helps push through the algorithm and makes it more accurate too. So yeah, I think if you're doing things that are obviously like aesthetically and visually nice, but also you're combining those small little tips and tricks to grow an account, I think that's like good quality content to me.
Sure. Could you explain to the audience, just because, they come from museum backgrounds, what are trending sounds?
Sure. So if you're scrolling through TikTok, some videos will have sounds, and you'll notice that you'll see the sounds more. Even when you're creating a TikTok, there's a little section on the music section that says like trending sounds. So you can literally click on a trending sound and see. You can also click on the sound and you'll see other videos that are made from the sound. So you can see things that are being used to create a trend. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so if you kind of choose a trending sound that matches your video, right, and you put it in there, then your videos are often more likely to be seen with
Definitely.
that.
Especially if
And
it's
then
like a
hashtags.
growing trend. Oh, sorry. Especially
Oh,
if it's a
sorry.
growing trend, like if it's
Mhm.
not, if the sound itself is under like a certain amount of like videos, it's great because you'll be growing with the trend and it won't be overdone on people's For You pages.
Yeah, you don't want to pop on the bandwagon too late, right? And then just be
Exactly.
kind of irritating people with the same sound.
Yeah, that's the challenging part about TikTok is like creating TikToks is definitely, it's something where it's got to be quick. And I think with Instagram, a lot of times there's just, if you're working in social media, I'm sure as you know, like it's this long approval process. And with TikTok, you really need to post because, you know, the sound could grow or the trend could be dead. So it's really important to be like relevant and stay on top of that.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a number of questions in here that we can address at the end. Yeah, I think these all are kind of end questions. So I'll leave those for now, but we'll definitely get to them. So how has TikTok changed how audiences interact with art on social media, especially compared to, kind of, I guess, Instagram is our most popular one before this for art?
Yeah. I think it's changed people's perspectives of the art world a little bit. So that also changes how they interact with the art itself. I think it's, made people more interested in it, but I also think it's exposed them to new and different artists or artworks. So I think that can also lead to people like moving that hobby and interest over to real life, whether that's collecting artworks or, reading more about different auctions or even just going to exhibitions. I think it's bled into like the physical world where people now have this new way of interacting where they wouldn't have before. And kind of like you were saying through the storytelling, people can have these associations or interests and that kind of propels an interest into a certain type of artwork or an artist.
Yeah, and I think it's made institutions more approachable, right? I think is a big part
Definitely.
of it.
Yeah, I
They
think,
don't seem so cold and
yeah,
separate.
museums are kind of intimidating sometimes, I guess, especially if you
Yeah.
don't know much about it. I mean, it's totally an intimidating thing. You're like, should I just walk around an exhibition? I don't know. Like, I get it. So yeah, I definitely think that's a great point that it makes it way less intimidating.
Yeah, and I think the same for galleries too, because a lot of the probably, the younger generations, I mean, some will go to galleries on a regular basis, right? We're talking about commercial galleries, but others may sort of see it as somewhere like a space that they're not really invited into, So I
Yeah,
feel like
definitely.
TikTok kind of allows the institution to create that invitation.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember actually on like a couple of my first videos, like right, kind of when COVID was settling down a bit and galleries were opening back up. I remember people were commenting like, can I just walk in? Do I need to like call or do I need to book something for galleries? And I was like, no, you can just go in.
Come in.
So yeah, I think it is intimidating. I even sometimes get intimidated and I worked in the gallery walking in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, if you have like openings or things like that at a gallery, I think it's a nice place to sort of make that something that is kind of more accessible to and just in terms of education about even how to access a gallery, right?
Totally.
And how a gallery works and all of that. So I think we talked about this a little bit about who can create or run a TikTok, right? And we mentioned conservators before, and I think it's an important point is that even if you're a solo conservator, you can run a TikTok. And in that case, maybe it's an even better idea to run a TikTok if you are a solo conservator, because you might reach people who want to use your services who have never, who never would have heard of you otherwise.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah. And I think an interesting one that I was thinking about, which I haven't seen a lot of yet, there's a little bit, but not a lot, is art handlers.
Yeah, same. I don't think I've seen that at all, honestly, on my For You page.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's actually a really interesting part of the art world, is kind of what happens with art behind the scenes of getting it installed and all of that, right? It's kind of a very different part of the experience that the public doesn't get to see most of the
Yeah.
time.
I think a lot of the art world definitely is. I mean, even before I got my master's degree, I studied art history, but to be honest, I didn't know much about like the art market or the art
Mhm.
institutions or just galleries, auction homes. So I think it was great when I obviously had got to go to the program and learn about it. But I think, yeah, most of the like world doesn't really know about that. Why would they, unless you're interested in it? So I think it's a great like way for those people to explain more about it, because it's really interesting, and it's an industry that's definitely I think overlapping more with other industries now, more
Mhm.
than ever. So like art and fashion always have collaborations and partnerships going on. So I think it's great for that kind of like exposure.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a personal interjection. Remind me where you studied art history.
At the George Washington University in DC.
Okay. I spent my first year and a half there. Who did you
Amazing.
study under?
Barbara Van, I'm not gonna remember her
Oh,
last
okay.
name, but
Was
yeah,
Jack still the head of
great.
the department at the time?
I believe so, yes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so funny. I transferred to university in Italy. I actually finished my degree in Rome, but
Oh, amazing.
I was there for almost 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
It just pinged. I thought you said George. I wasn't sure if you said George Washington or George Mason. So,
Yeah, GW.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, funny. So let's talk about content ideas that you've seen work well for art organizations, especially ones that kind of are more accessible for maybe smaller institutions.
Totally. So I think something that works well is what we had mentioned before about having different people within your institution kind of like talk about what they do, or just kind of make them a personality. Even businesses and brands do this. So Duolingo is a great example, where they have like the Duolingo bird. It doesn't ever really explain like what Duolingo necessarily is, but it gets people to
Mhm.
follow and engage with the account. So I think that works for museums too, whether it's, Howard, who I was referring to from the Sacramento Museum, just talking or saying what he does as a volunteer, or just kind of making him like the center of a video. So I think that's like a really beneficial thing for museums to do for content. I also think educational videos using like trends and different ideas. So I think, yeah, following with the trends, but in like a contemporary way is a great way for museums to gain more followers. I think that the V&A Museum does a great job at that, where they kind of they do different trends and short videos, but they're still educational in some of their permanent exhibitions.
Yeah. So let's see. Andrew says, seriously, Art Handler Mag is not on TikTok. Andrew, you want to know how many followers they have? 71.
Oh,
There,
wow.
there's a lot that can be done on there.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
that
people would love
space.
to learn about that. Like that,
Dive
the
in.
stuff needs to, someone start
Yeah.
making videos.
I don't think, honestly, the general public, I don't even think they realize that art handler is a profession,
Mhm.
let alone what they do and how important it is what they do,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow,
yeah.
someone should start making the videos.
Yeah. Oh yes, I agree. We both face. So let's talk a little bit about, speaking of art handler accounts, let's talk about TikTok accounts that you would recommend that the audience check out.
Definitely. So Girl in the Gallery, I think that's her username on TikTok. Her name's Lucy. She goes to
Mhm.
different galleries. She's based in London, and she goes to different galleries and exhibitions, and she does a great job at educating people on not just like current art world things, but just how the art world works in general.
Mm.
She speaks a lot in her videos, which I love. I'm not much of a I don't really like to be on camera that much, so I stay away from that. But I love that someone else is able to like educate people, and she's done a great job. There's a woman named Seema. I think her handle is called Art Lust on TikTok, and she's great. She used to work at a museum. I'm blanking on the name, but she used to work in a museum, and now she creates TikToks where she talks about different art movements and different museums, but always makes like a contemporary comparison. And she's great. I love her videos. It really, I think that's like a great way to get new audiences in, is through this like contemporary comparison, where she'll take like a painting and show like a picture of Kim Kardashian and like compare the two. She's great.
Yeah.
And then I think an original TikToker who was the first art one I had ever seen, their name is Evan Pridmore, I think.
Okay.
The username's
We'll
Evan.
get all this into the
Yeah, I can
email
like
release
type
after.
yeah. Evan.Hart is the TikTok name, and they're amazing. They talk about
Heart.
Hart. Yeah, Evan.Hart, I believe.
Got it.
And they talk about different art history movements. I think they focused on like medieval art at one point. And they work in a museum, and they're great. I think, yeah, they were one of the original ones I've seen. And then That's Pretty Neat is also one on TikTok. Her name is Susan, and her handle is That's Pretty Neat. And she also talks about exhibitions and focuses in on like education on artists, and her account's great too. She was like an original OG TikToker that I followed.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like we've just answered then Holly's question. So those are some different examples. I think the interesting thing about TikTok is that you'll find there's a lot of different perspectives on sort of one corner of topic, or one sort of topic. So museum talk isn't necessarily just museums, right? It's also people who go to museums, and it's educators who are like professors who study museums, and right. So you sort of have all these different perspectives. And so you can kind of learn from all of these different types of accounts, because they'll all have different formats, and you can kind of find what you think will work best for you. So sometimes it's going to be talking about your exhibitions, and that's what you want to be doing. Like Taylor was saying, for Artlist, sometimes it's a really educational video where they're sort of giving you information on comparisons and things like that. And sometimes it'll be kind of explaining how the art world works, right? So there's a lot of directions that you could go. But the focus is really just to figure out, what type of message do you want to put out there, and then start.
Definitely. Just start
from
posting. There. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can refine as you go, right? I think, but and you'll see what works as you go.
Yeah, I think that's huge about
but it's
TikTok
not something like Instagram.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, please go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I agree in that. Like, I think you just need to test out what works. People say, especially as a social media and content strategist, like my friends and I talk about this all the time, where yeah, you just need to give it a go and try it, because some things, you could post one day a TikTok when all your followers online, and it just another video maybe is more interesting that day, so it's all about just keep pushing out the content that you want, and like don't be afraid to fail at it.
Yeah. So let's see, we have some good questions here. In the case of an important exhibition that has many artworks in it, what would you suggest is the maximum time for one video? It might be difficult to cover a blockbuster or retrospective exhibition in 1 minute.
That's a great question. It really depends. So you're able to see on your account like how long people watch each TikTok. So I would say definitely base it off of what your average watch time is. That means how long they're going to watch it before they scroll. But I think on average, people say like 12-second videos really perform the best on TikTok. So I would say I would initially push out a smaller, shorter video and see how it's received. And then if people want more information, you can do like a part 2. But I would say try to keep it concise. I think after over a minute, people lose interest unless it's like a story or something that's really engaging. But I would say the shorter the better sometimes.
Yeah, I think the shorter the better, and the more videos the better. I mean, don't take that to the extreme, right? But if you have a large blockbuster exhibition, put together 10 videos that each has its own little mini story in it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's
rather than
I think that's something that's like it's hard to put a lot of information into a short amount of time. So yeah, I agree. I think, and also the more you're posting, the better. You can post 2 times a day, 3 times a day. So if you have a lot of information, just cut it down into shorter videos that are relevant.
Yeah. So for example, I know sometimes like there might be an exhibition that's organized based on one artist's interaction with other artists at different points in time, right? And those influences. And so instead of doing the entire exhibition in one, do each interaction as one video, right?
Yeah,
So you can
definitely.
kind of break it up into
Yeah, it's a great
pieces.
idea.
Yeah, just like you break up the curation of the exhibit, right? You don't tell one story on one plaque.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're seeing it kind of almost in real time as if you were going through the exhibition. I think I
Yeah.
try to do that sometimes with my videos just to make it seem like, you know, so people can see what it would be like if they attended the exhibition or the museum.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, given the multitude of millions of postings, how do users find museums like the Sacramento Museum or a local exhibition?
So yeah, for museums like the Sacramento Museum, I think it's because they have this like signature person that people are really interested in as a volunteer in their story. But I think, you know, you'll find it for your through your For You page, or even if you type in keywords. So if you're interested in a museum, or you're interested in art, you would type it in and you'd be able to, you know, find different accounts and follow them. If you're not interested in that and it shows up on your For You page, it's because the video was either something similar to something you like, or because it's engaging, or because a lot of people are suddenly engaging in it. So I think that's how you're able to find new accounts. And for local exhibitions, sometimes it is based off of like where you're located. So I think that's a huge factor too. But I definitely think, yeah, the more people that interact with it right away, and TikTok does have a video can blow up a couple days after you posted it, but it's really important for people to interact with it when it gets posted at first.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Let's see. And then this is an interesting question. There's with the security concerns around TikTok, there's concerns that the information is being kind of used by national governments, or some countries have blocked it for periods of time. So do you have any kind of information or recommendations about that, Taylor?
I honestly don't. I still use it, obviously. So I'm not sure. I know that there's always been talk that it'll get banned and then it doesn't. As of now, it's not, but I honestly I don't have any concerns, but I'm sure there, if you do, I understand.
Yeah. I think it's something that you kind of have to decide on an individual basis, but in terms of the content that you're putting on there, in that context, I'd be probably more concerned about your personal data rather than
Yes.
your organization's data. Just because you're not actually putting anything on there in terms of, you're putting the same thing you would put out on your website or on Instagram. So I think some people can get too personal on TikTok and sort of put out information that will allow them to other people to find their house or something,
Yeah.
and that's not great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And that could go on any platform too. I think it's, yeah, I guess you're in control of what you share.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important no matter what.
Mhm. This is an interesting one. Have you ever had any issues with the museums or the galleries where you take your videos with copyright issues?
Not really. So I've had it where I would never film an exhibition that wasn't allowed to be filmed. A good example is I went to a museum for like a tour for people that were influencers, or like art influencers or art accounts. And we were not allowed to take videos, but we could take pictures. And that was just for security reasons, I think, of the museum, because they were like bringing a collection from somewhere else. So other than that, or like if the exhibition is not meant to be filmed and it will say that, I've not had any issues. Most of the time museums will ask for my video, or if they can repost it, or galleries will like reach out and ask if I could come in to film. So I haven't had any of those issues, but I've definitely had it where, you know, if you're not allowed to film, like you shouldn't be filming, and it makes everyone else's job kind of harder. Like security guards are going to tell you to stop filming. So I don't suggest doing that.
Yeah, respect the rules, I guess.
Yeah.
So, oh, this is a great quote from the Black Country Living Museum. According to a recent poll, 80% of the people that we are talking with on TikTok are under 30. 50% of the followers hadn't visited the museum before, and 80% of the followers said interacting with them was the first time they'd interacted with museums on social media, period.
That is
So
interesting.
yeah, so it's like definitely a younger audience and ones who may not know about your institution, whether it's a gallery or a museum. And so it's, it's good to get that word out there to that market.
Yeah, it's like a totally new audience, and
Yeah.
they'll obviously get older, and so that'll get more people to be involved with the museum over time. I think it's great to draw in a younger audience.
Yeah, let's see. Magali says, yes, I'm curious about copyright issues. Come from a small museum, and anything in the galleries we can post and video, but then there are specific pieces that the artists don't want on social media. It's hard to figure out what we can and can't post. Yeah, I mean, I think it's tricky when you work at the museum and you may not know, you may be filming something before the do not film sign is put up.
Totally.
So I think in those cases, I mean, sometimes you just have to check, right?
Yeah, definitely.
There's not like a tried and true formula that will allow you to post that or not and not have like issues. But I think, yeah, in a lot of cases, it's just about getting the permission.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that there's like copyright laws if it's over a certain amount of years old. There's certain ones you can film and certain ones you can't. So I think, yeah, if anything, just ask, or I think that's probably the best solution, is always just to ask and see, just so you don't like step on anyone's toes or get in trouble.
Let's see, we had a question about creating content for a bilingual organization. So I feel like creating duplicate content might bore followers to see the same photo videos on their feed, but at the same time, including text for 2 languages in one video might take up too much of the screen. What do you think, Taylor?
That's a really great question. I think there's a few ways to go about it. I think that some videos that are trend based usually just have music, so you maybe don't even need any words, so it just kind of works for everybody. And you can kind of get the gist based off of like the music, no matter what the language is, or just, the visual content. But I do see other videos where if it's, like a French museum would have English subtitles, and they get lots of views. I think keeping subtitles on is great, and I think it doesn't take up too much of the space, as long as it's done in like an aesthetic way that's readable, but also, again, not blocking anything. I think it's a great idea.
So having one of the languages be spoken and then the other language be written,
and subtitle,
right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I think.
Sorry, I think of subtitles
something.
as like I see what you mean. Yeah, it should be like in another language, the subtitle. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes, I mean, it is obviously you can sometimes put both languages written, but it does, sometimes it does definitely block the screen. I've seen some accounts that will do it in the description section if it's not too long, right?
Yeah. There's I think the captions recently changed to where you can make your captions longer now, so you can click it and it like scrolls up to this big box. So that's a great idea to have both languages there, just so everybody can see it and read it. Yeah,
and I know the auto captions, there is multiple language options on them, right? Or they should be coming out with them. Yeah. So take a look at that. Make sure you have the most updated version of the app and see if you can see depending on if your language is available, obviously, in the captions. But
yeah.
Let's see. Andrew says some labs have more strict regulations, putting out content has to clear with their marketing folks. Yeah. That definitely is the case. I think, hopefully, because ideally speaking, if you're a conservator who wants to be able to do TikTok, then talk to your marketing department and say, look, like, obviously I don't want to approve every video with you, but can we just make sure that that piece can be filmed? And as long as I don't get in any identifying information or anything like that, is that okay for me to put up however many videos I want for that piece, right? You just kind of have to make sure you come to an agreement that's not going to be too time intensive for either side.
Yeah.
Let's see. Holly says, any ideas, thoughts, advice on heritage content? Holly, what do you mean by heritage content, just for the rest of the audience to understand?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Just because Taylor comes from the gallery world. Arts and crafts. Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, not like the typical fine arts. In the arts and crafts house, are things being created or are you just exhibiting? Just exhibiting. Okay.
Okay.
What do you think, Taylor?
I think kind of what I was talking about before applies for any institution. So I think, oh, you've workshops too. That's great. I think, yeah, highlighting anything that's going on at the museum beyond the exhibitions is great too. So workshops, or I know some museums do like late night like parties, or just come to the galleries late night. Yeah, or even classes at the museum. I think highlighting those and showing how the museum is more than just walking through and seeing an exhibition, how it's a place for people to come together and share interests and learn about things. So I think, yeah, highlighting that through short, like formatting videos, showing people interacting with each other is really important to get that message across. And then, yeah, using trends to make it more relevant, the exhibitions. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily even have to be educational. It can just be showing someone something visually pleasing that they like, if there's a work that's specific or something like that. I think, yeah, just thinking of new ways, just instead of, you know, videoing the art.
Yeah, I think a really good place to start, Holly, is probably with like, did you know videos is what I call them, right? So 10-15 second videos where you show a piece or you show a little clip of a workshop. And it's like, did you know that this type of craft originated from this group of people and they used to use it for X, right? That type of information that some people may not know, but is interesting to them, is sort of a really easy format to follow because you know all that already. But not a lot of people don't, right? So if you can start there and then kind of get into the more interesting corners of those stories with future TikToks and kind of figure out what people want to hear about, I think that's a pretty easy place to start.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. So do we have any other questions? Oh, we've had so many questions today. I'm so glad. It's been a good one. I think TikTok is a pretty exciting place for our institution, so everyone should take advantage of it.
Definitely. Yeah, everyone's questions were great.
I saw a good prompt that was, what was the creepiest thing in your collection? Oh, yeah.
That's really good.
That is a great prompt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think something else to look out for, if you explore the hashtags that are around museums, like hashtag museum talk, hashtag art conservation, you'll find some of these prompts that Emma's talking about. And the prompts is where you stitch a video, right? So there's a lot of language here. Will you explain what a stitch is, Taylor?
Sure. A stitch is when someone creates a video. So if I was creating a stitch, I see a video and then I make a response to it, or I'm, you know, interacting with it, and the screen will be split. So you'll see the original video and then your response / whatever you're wanting to interact with the video on the other side. So it's just two videos together with one person interacting with the original video. I think that's yeah. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
So sorry, I think it's lagging a bit. Yeah, so essentially, like, someone will kind of put a question or like a prompt out into the world and hope that people will answer with their own video, right? And you can like tag that video, you can sort of respond to that video, you can duet that video, right? There's different ways that you can kind of answer the prompt, but that's sort of a nice way to get started too, because you know that there's already people who are interested in the question if that video is popular. And so you're giving the answer, right? That people are looking for.
Yeah, you can also respond to comments too without like making a stitch video. So if someone comments on your TikTok and you want to answer that person's specific question and engage and interact with your audience, it's a really great way to build engagement. And it does push into the algorithm a little bit more because you are engaging with your users.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, one last question. How do you handle trolls?
That's a great question. So I don't get too many. Occasionally someone will comment on like the type of content I'm posting, or they're like, why do you like this artist? And I don't really care, honestly. So I just kind of ignore it. But there's also, that's a big reason why I don't love to be on camera. I'd prefer just to show things or talk and do a voiceover, because I don't really want to deal with trolls. But a lot of my friends who are, show their face on the platform and have a larger following, I think you just have to like focus on the positive comments and focus on how many people are happy with your account and engaging with it and follow it and like the account. So just like ignore like any trolls that you see or any comments that are bad.
Yeah, you also have the ability to filter comments if you're a business account. So if you're dealing with a topic that is sensitive and you anticipate there to be like maybe some anti-Semitic people in the comment section or some racist people in the comment section, then you can choose words that you would want to filter out when you post, so that people whose comments include those words don't show.
Yeah, I think that's great for, especially for institutions. Like, people should not be commenting no matter what video, but just, you're like, if you're on a public platform, you have the ability now to kind of control what people are saying. And that's the nice part about TikTok, is that filter feature and being able to block them too. So that's great.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I had a very active audience today, which was lovely. And thank you, Taylor, for sharing your museum talk wisdom. And
thank you for having me. Yeah, it was great speaking with you, and everyone had great questions. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, see you all next time, and we'll send out the recording. Thanks.
Great. Bye. Thanks, Anne.